Hello everyone, this is Wandering Tati. So this is going to be my first unscripted video. We'll see what happens with that. I thought it would be interesting for us to have a look together at this website called Philosophy Experiments, which has a lot of interesting thought experiments, and I thought it would be fun for us to think about them together. Of course, I encourage you to let me know in the comments below what your answers would be to any of the experiments, and whether or not you agree with my responses. Okay, so let's start. The scenarios. The aim of this game is to stay alive. There are 3 rounds. In each round, you will be presented with a scenario and then offered 2 choices. The decision you make determines whether you stay alive or perish. You should always base your decisions on nothing more than the desire to keep yourself in existence. Also, each scenario should be taken at face value. The situation will be as described. There are no tricks, and you do not need to worry about other what-ifs. At the end of the game, you will discover if you have stayed alive or not. Although, being a philosophical game, the verdict won't be straightforward. Okay, let's start. Round 1. The teletransporter choice. You have been chosen to go on a very important mission to Mars. You have no choice in this matter. Damn it, Elon, I have no choice? Relax. You must go, but you can choose your means of transport. One method is teletransportation. You will step into a scanner here on Earth that will destroy your brain and body while recording the exact state of all your cells. This information will be transmitted to a replicator on Mars, taking 3 minutes to arrive, which will then create a brain and body exactly like yours using entirely new materials. The person on Mars will look like you, think like you, in fact be indistinguishable from you. He or she will certainly feel as though they have merely fallen asleep on Earth and then woken up on Mars. This method is 100% reliable. The other method of transport is space travel. This is very risky, and there is 50% chance that the spacecraft will not complete the journey and you will die in transit. But if you do successfully take the spacecraft, then your body and brain won't at any stage have been destroyed. You must choose the option you think will give yourself the biggest chance of surviving. I think I would definitely take the spacecraft. It seems like in the first option, the teletransporter, I would just be destroyed, and then they will just make a copy of me on Mars. The copy thinks that it is me, but I would have been destroyed on Earth. I mean, there will be another person with my memories and a replica of my body and brain, but doesn't seem like it will be me. With the spacecraft, well, okay, we have like a 50% chance of survival. It's pretty risky, but it seems like that option at least gives me a 50% chance of surviving, of me being in Mars. So I will take the second option, the spacecraft. You struck it lucky. The spacecraft arrived safely. Welcome to Mars. Round 2. Silicon or virus? Life on Mars turns out not to be a bed of roses. In fact, 2 strange viruses have evolved on the planet which are causing a lot of problems. The first destroys body parts. Fortunately, medical science is very advanced, which means people can simply be given artificial limbs and organs as required. You've been hit pretty hard by the virus, and in fact, almost your entire body is now made up of artificial parts. Cool! I'm an android now. However, there exists a second virus that attacks the brain. That one is trickier. It is peculiarly nasty in that it doesn't destroy the brain, rather it messes up the neural pathways, leading to a loss of memory and also a change in personality traits. One person who had the virus had been a successful author. Now he can't write a word, but he's become rather good at exotic dancing. Well, you lose some, you gain some. It is indeed an odd virus. Unfortunately, you have carelessly managed to catch the virus. Of course I have. Medics can get around the virus by replacing pieces of the brain with advanced forms of silicon chip. In your case, they would have to do this to almost all of your brain, but trials show that you can be sure that the result will be the total preservation of your memories, personality, plans, beliefs, and so on, and a person is able to carry on living a normal life as is, well, normal. The alternative is to succumb to the virus with its consequent loss of memory and change in character. You must make the choice choice which you think will give yourself the biggest chance of surviving. So, what are we if we are not our memories and experiences? It seems that what we are is our personality, our traits and memories. So if we let the virus take its course, then it seems like it would actually destroy what we are. The one about the silicon, what they are doing is replacing pieces of your brain with this silicon chip. Trials show that you can be sure that the result will be the total preservation of your memories, personality, plans, beliefs, and so on. Seems like that one gives you a higher chance of surviving as yourself. It seems like that thought experiment with the boat of Theseus. I think the answer is yes. In that spirit, I will take the silicon, thanks. Let's go with that one. Round 3. Die or freeze. Strange as it may seem, it has been discovered that reincarnation of a sort does actually occur. It seems that there is some immaterial part, call it a soul, in all human beings. On death, it leaves the body and enters the body of a newborn animal or human. It does not take memory with it, of course, for if it did, we'd have known this were true already. It is thought that it may have some effect in determining one's character, but given the evidence for the strong influence of genes and upbringing, this effect is thought to be relatively small. Even stranger than the fact of reincarnation, it seems that our souls die if stored at below freezing point for longer than a week. These facts are vital to the last choice you must make. You are very ill, but scientists have almost found a cure for the disease you have. Further, they have also developed a technique to deep freeze humans, enabling them to be revived later with their memories and character intact. You have two choices. The first choice is to let the disease take its toll. Your body will die, but your soul will live on. The second choice is to be deep frozen and thawed and cured later. This will destroy your soul and has only a 30% chance of success. That is, there is a 70% chance that the thawing and curing won't work. You must make the choice that you think will give yourself the biggest chance of surviving. I would be interested in surviving as myself. If I would let my body die, then all this that makes me would just vanish, right? If I'm okay with my whole body basically being replaced by non-organic parts, then I should be okay with my body being replaced by the body of a different person, say. So that's not the issue. I was also okay with the parts of my brain being replaced by new parts made of silicon, as long as I would keep my memories and beliefs and personality traits. So it seems like if I were to preserve my memory, I would definitely choose the reincarnation option. But it says that you don't. Okay, they might take something that is a part of me, but it's not exactly what makes me me in general. And that would be sent to another body to have a different life. So it seems like it wouldn't be me. And the other option, if you freeze yourself, you have a 30% chance of being cured and continuing as you are. The same brain, the same memories, same everything. Taking everything in consideration, I'm going to go with freeze me now. Yay! The freezing, thawing and curing were all a success. Well done! I survived! Congratulations! You have survived! However, although you have survived, you seem to have taken an unnecessary risk. Did I? Why? There are basically three kinds of things that could be required for the continued existence of yourself. One is bodily continuity, which may actually require only that parts of the body stay in existence, for example the brain. Another is psychological continuity, which requires the continuance of your consciousness, by which is meant your thoughts, ideas, memories, plans, beliefs, and so on. The third possibility is the continued existence of some kind of immaterial part of you, which might be called the soul. Your choices are consistent with the theory known as psychological reductionism. On this view, all that is required for the continued existence of the self is psychological continuity. Your three choices show that this is what you see as central to your sense of self. Not any attachment to a particular substance, be it your body, brain, or soul. But there is a tension. In allowing your brain and body to be replaced by synthetic parts, you seem to be accepting that psychological continuity is what matters, not bodily continuity. But if this is the case, why did you risk the spacecraft instead of taking the teletransporter? You ended up allowing your body to be replaced anyway, so why did you decide to risk everything on the spacecraft instead of just giving up on your original body there and then? What do you mean? It seems to me that this option does not give me continuity. If you are destroying it on Earth and making a copy on Mars, there you lost a continuity. It seems to me that even though that thing on Mars is my memory and has my personality, the one that originally existed has been destroyed. I guess I would have agreed to that one if you were to somehow take my mind, whatever that means, all my personality, memories and everything, and put it on a box and send it to Mars, and that part is going to be placed in an artificial body and brain, then I think I will be okay with that. But not with you destroying everything here and making a copy on Mars. At least that's how it seems to me right now. But you can let me know if you disagree. Maybe you have seen things in a different way, so that would be interesting to know. You're being tortured in the morning. These experiments are really dark. There is no need for much preamble here, except to say that this activity deals with some of the issues thrown up by British philosopher Bernard Williams' journal article The Self and the Future, which first appeared in the Philosophical Review in April 1970. The other thing to say is that you should read the instructions on the next page quite carefully. You'll be able to complete the activity if you don't, but the conclusions likely won't be valid. Okay, let's go. Scenario 1. You have fallen into the hands of Zach Coyne, a mad and powerful scientist. He informs you he is going to torture you tomorrow morning. Not surprisingly, you find this idea rather terrifying. Yes, I do. However, Professor Coyne has some sort of barely functioning conscience, so he's decided to tell you a number of things about what's going to happen in the hope that you'll be reassured about your fate. All you've got to do here is, each time you're told something, indicate whether you find it reassuring, that is, whether it significantly reduces your fear levels. There are a few things you should bear in mind. 1. Everything that Professor Coyne tells you is true. There's no deception. Second, we're only interested here in how you feel about the prospect of being tortured. That is, whether you think you're going to suffer as Coyne lives out his Jack Bauer fantasy. So, for example, if you learn that Professor Coyne is going to set you free, you shouldn't claim not to be reassured about your fate on the grounds that something worse might happen to you as a result. Third, you should also cast aside any wider moral or humanitarian worries you have about torture. So, for example, no claiming you could never feel reassured while there's an evil scientist roaming around free, even if you are worried he might end up torturing little kittens. Fourth, you should treat the things you're told as being cumulative. At each stage, you should indicate whether you're feeling reassured in the light of everything you've been told, not just the latest piece of information. Remember, Coyne is truthful, so you'll be told nothing that is contradictory. Basically, Coyne is going to reveal more and more about what's going to happen to you. And fifth, yes, this is an online activity, so obviously you're not actually going to be feeling fearful or reassured. So there's this thing called an imagination. Cool, okay, let's start. Okay, scenario 1. Right, here we go. Remember, what we're interested in here is whether you're reassured in terms of your own fate at the hands of Professor Coyne. So again, resist any thoughts you might have about never being reassured while there's a mad scientist on the loose. Also, you should bear in mind that you should only respond that you are reassured if you are significantly less fearful of the prospect of being tortured. Statement 1. Professor Coyne tells you that when the time comes to torture you, he'll ensure you have no memory of having been told in advance you were going to be tortured. It'll be a surprise that the torture is about to occur. Are you reassured by this information? No, because as horrible as it seems to be told that you are going to be tortured in the morning, at least if you know as much as you can do any of that, but somehow you could mentally prepare yourself for what's going to happen, I think it might make a difference whether or not you know what's about to happen. It seems to be worse to be surprised by something awful rather than knowing that something awful is going to happen and sort of prepare yourself for it. So I'm going to say no in this one. Excellent. It would have been very odd to have claimed you would be reassured by the thought that the torture was going to be unexpected. Statement 2. Professor Coyne also tells you that at the moment of torture you won't be able to remember anything at all that you now remember. So, for example, a real-life analog might be waking up in extreme pain after a car accident and due to head trauma being unable to remember anything at all about one's life. Are you reassured by this information? What? No, I'm not. So I'm just going to wake up in pain and don't even remember anything from my life? That sounds horrible. So no, I'm not reassured. Okay, well, that's certainly consistent with your first response. Let's see whether you can find any reassurance in the final 2 pieces of information that Coyne is going to impart. Statement 3. Professor Coyne now states that not only will you not be able to remember anything that you now remember, but you have an entirely different set of thoughts and impressions of your past. Very different from the thoughts and memories you currently have. So, for example, a real-life analog here might be waking up in extreme pain after an accident, believing that one is Henry VIII. It seems to me that waking up in pain, not remembering who you are, or waking up in pain thinking that you are this historical figure, doesn't change anything. You would wake up in pain, you would have been surprised by something awful, so I'm gonna say no, I'm not reassured. Right, that response makes sense. If you weren't reassured by the knowledge that when the time comes for you to be tortured, you are not going to have any of your current memories, then it seems right you won't be reassured just because you know you're going to have somebody else's thoughts and memories. Statement 4. The math professor now tells you that the new set of thoughts and impressions of your past will exactly match those of somebody who is currently alive, and in fact that they will be copied into your brain from the other person's brain. So basically you're saying you will take someone else's mind and put it in my brain. But what happens with me? Like, where do my thoughts and memories go? They just disappear? I'm gonna go with I'm not reassured by this. Okay, so given your 2 previous responses, that's the expected answer. You are not reassured by the knowledge that when the time comes for you to be tortured, you'll have somebody else's thoughts and memories. So it is surely right that you remain fearful, since there doesn't seem to be any reason to think that it will make a difference whose memories you will come to have or how they will come to be in your brain. We'll have more to say about this later, but for now, we'll just note that you have ended up no less fearful of the prospect of being tortured than you were before Professor Coyne explained to you exactly what he was going to be doing. We'll return to the math professor in a little while, but right now we have a different scenario for you to think about. This one also involves torture, but happily this time you have more control over what's going to happen to you. Let's see. So, scenario 2. 2 people, A and B, are about to undergo an odd experience. The thoughts and memories of person A will be extracted from their brain, which will then be wiped clean so that all the information that was previously stored there is erased. The same thing will simultaneously happen to person B. Then the memories and thoughts of a person A will be transmitted into the brain of the body that was formerly B's, and the memories and thoughts of person B will be transmitted into the brain of the body that was formerly A's. This means we'll now have body person A with the thoughts and memories of B, and body person B with the thoughts and memories of A. You are the original person A. That is, your thoughts and memories are going to end up in body person B. After the experiment has been completed, one body person will be given $1 million and the other body person will be tortured. You want to get the reward and avoid the torture, obviously. You get to choose which body person is to be rewarded and by extension, which is to be tortured. So what's it to be? Remember, you were originally person A. Your thoughts and memories will now only exist inside body person B. Okay, So I want to reward body person B, who has my personality and memories. So it's basically me in some other body, and torture person A. Okay, identity confusion syndrome, this is what it says. Bad news, in common with 69% of the 68,811 people who have completed this activity, you are showing signs of identity confusion syndrome. What? Why? In your case, the symptoms are as follows. You responded to the second scenario that you wanted to reward body person B, which will have the consequence that body person A will be tortured. This suggests that what you think is important in terms of your own identity is that body person B now has your thoughts and memories. In effect, body person B is now you. It follows, therefore, that body person A is no longer you, partly because it isn't obvious that you can be more than one person at the same time, and partly because body person A no longer has your thoughts and memories. They have the thoughts and memories of the person who used the body person B. This is also perfectly sensible. However, there is a problem. It doesn't fit with the way you responded to the first scenario. The key thing here is that at the point at which they are tortured, the person in the first scenario is in precisely the same situation as body person A in the second scenario. Both have the thoughts and memories of another person. You believe that body person A in the second scenario is not you anymore. Therefore, by the logic of your response to scenario 2, you should not have feared being tortured in scenario 1, since the person being tortured would not have been you. That doesn't seem fair. I mean, I didn't have all the information in scenario 1. I was only told that I would have someone else's memories, but it seems that my memories were just going to disappear. That would be as if, I guess, I hit my head and didn't remember exactly who I was. But okay, I get that you're saying that I should have just thought that in that case I wouldn't exist anymore, and therefore the person being tortured will be someone else completely different from me. The aim of this activity is to tell you something about how you view the morality of behavior that many people would consider to be disgusting or repellent, or obviously wrong, but where it is difficult to explain exactly why the behavior should be seen this way. A couple of points before we start. The activity asks you to make judgments about a number of scenarios. You need to treat these as if they are accurate descriptions of real-world events. In other words, we are interested in your judgments about the events as they are described here, not as you imagine they would actually occur if they really were real-world events. And second, you will be asked to make yes-no choices. If you aren't sure whether to choose yes or no, opt for the response that you are most inclined towards. You should then take this into account when you read the analysis at the end. Let's go! Would you eat your cat? Come with me and let's find out. We have 5 preliminary questions. As with most of the activities on this site, we need to start by asking you a few preliminary questions so we can get a general idea of your views about things. Question 1. A small girl is playing on a swing in a local playground when an adult comes along and pushes her off into the dirt for no other reason than that he'd had a bad day at work and wanted to take it out on somebody who couldn't fight back. Woof. Okay. Are his actions morally wrong? I'm gonna be controversial here and say yes. Question 2. Is it possible for an action to be morally wrong solely because people find the idea of it a bit disgusting? For example, if lots of people found the idea of eating porridge disgusting, could it be morally wrong to eat porridge just for this reason and no other reason? I would say no. There has to be some justification as to why something is wrong. Otherwise, where is the limit? Like, we can just say that whatever we dislike for some reason has to be forbidden in the world, even if it doesn't harm anyone. No, so no. Question 3. Can an action be morally wrong if the only person or people harmed by it is the person or people undertaking the action? For example, could it be morally wrong to smoke if it is true that nobody except the smoker is harmed? There are two things you should bear in mind here. First, if you respond no, it will also be assumed that you do not think an action can be morally wrong if nobody at all is harmed by it. Second, for the purposes of this activity, you should assume that every action that aims at doing harm or which carries the reasonable expectation of causing harm actually causes harm. In other words, don't answer yes just because you think the assassin who fails in an attempt to kill her target and thereby causes no actual harm has nevertheless behaved immorally. I would lean towards no because I find freedom to be something that should be respected as much as possible. I'm all for people doing their own thing as long as it doesn't harm anybody else. So I'm gonna say that I don't find it morally wrong. I wouldn't want a person to be harmed by smoking, but can't really say to them that they cannot live or die in whichever way they want. I would just maybe try to persuade them to stop smoking or to do something that I think is causing them harm, but I cannot really say that it's morally wrong. So I'm gonna go with no. Question 4. Does morality come from God or from some other source independent of nature, the social world, and human judgment? Note, if you think either of these possibilities is true, then answer yes. If you think neither are true, then answer no. Morality has definitely changed over time. So I think it's not something that's fixed and given from an outside source. It's something that evolves and that we all decide together. So I'm going to say no. Good. There really doesn't seem to be much wrong with these responses. Okay, thank you. It's entirely possible you're going to do well here. It's possible, we'll see. Scenario 1. Hassan's promise. We're now going to present you with 3 scenarios, and you get to answer 2 questions about each. As you'll notice, we're not asking you to make moral judgments here about the events that are depicted in these scenarios. Rather, we want to know whether you think any harm occurred and also about how the events make you feel, whether they make you feel uncomfortable or bothered or disgusted. Carl Bianchi's mother was very ill. On her deathbed, she asked him to promise that he would visit her grave at least once a week. Carl didn't want to disappoint his mother, so he promised that he would. But after his mother died, he didn't keep his promise. He was too busy. He didn't tell anyone about his promise, and he has never felt guilty for failing to do as he said he would. Was anybody harmed by the fact that Carl failed to keep the promise he made to his mother on her deathbed? I'm gonna say no. I'm saying no because I think the mother is not really going to care after she died. Like either she disappears, in which case nobody is harmed by the promise. She was happy at the moment when she asked her son to do this thing for her, and he said he would. That made her happy, and then she died in peace, and that's all. Or if she's in something like heaven, then I don't think she's going to be upset over there thinking that her son didn't keep a promise just because he's busy or whatever. So I'm going to go with no. Nobody was harmed. Would it have bothered you or made you feel uncomfortable to have watched Carl promising his mother that he'd visit her grave at least once a week if you knew perfectly well that he wouldn't keep his promise? So suppose I know for a fact, as it says, I know perfectly well that he is not going to keep his promise of visiting her in her grave. But what would anyone win? For me, forcing Carl to not say something nice to his dying mother, that doesn't seem to be the most compassionate approach. I think I would agree with him saying something that comforts her and makes her happy at the moment while she's still alive than to just telling a truth that it's going to hurt her. He's asking whether I would be bothered by it. No, I'm gonna answer no because I think it's better that he says that even though he might not plan on doing it. It's better to not hurt his mother at that time. So I will go with no. Okay, scenario 2, a cat snack. Oh, this is this is the one. Betty Slocum's cat was killed in a tragic accident with an out-of-control lawnmower. Whoa. She had heard that cat meat was jolly tasty, so she cut up her cat, cooked it, and ate it for dinner. To date, she has never regretted her culinary experiment, and she claims not to have suffered any harm as a result of cooking and eating Fopsy. Fopsy, no. No. Okay. Has anybody been harmed by the fact that Betty Slocum ate her cat? Phew. Okay, so we're saying that, I mean, the cat is already dead, so rest in peace, Flopsy, but you weren't harmed after you died, you were just dead, so it doesn't matter whether somebody eats your body afterwards or not. So that's a no. It also explicitly says that Betty wasn't harmed by it, that she has no feelings of remorse for what she has done, so okay. Do I find it awful? Yes, but I don't think anyone was harmed by it, so I will say no. Would it bother you or disgust you to watch somebody eating their pet cat as an evening meal? Yes, it would. Yes, it's because I find it gross, but I don't have a moral explanation for it, but yes, it would upset me to see that. So I'm gonna just answer yes to that one. Scenario 3, the lovers. Robert and Mary are brother and sister. I've seen enough anime to know where this might be going. One night, while on vacation together away from home and staying alone in a tent on the beach, they decided that it would be fun to have sex with each other. So they did. The following things about them are true. They enjoyed the sex. They knew that because of a medical condition, Mary could not get pregnant. They decided they would not have sex with each other again, and they have not, but they have never regretted the experience. In fact, they are still pleased that it happened, and consider it a special and positive event. It has also remained their secret. Has anybody been harmed by the fact that Robert and Mary had sex together? Well, given all these conditions, I'm going to say no. Nobody was harmed by it. They both consented to it. They wanted to. Is it weird that they are brother and sister? Yes, due to the way our society functions, it's pretty weird. But I don't think anyone was harmed. And even so, I mean, if you could argue that maybe if a child would result from that event, that the child might have some medical problems or whatever, then they are explicitly saying that she could not get pregnant, so that was never a factor. They just had sex, they had a good time, and they kept it a secret and moved on with their lives. And they never saw it as a bad thing. So I'm gonna say no. Now, would it bother you or disgust you if you found out that a brother and sister you know personally were enjoying an ongoing sexual relationship with each other? I don't know. It's pretty weird for me because I couldn't see myself in their position. Like, well, mostly because I'm an only child, but even if I had a brother, if I was raised in a certain way, I don't think I could see him with other eyes, like to have any other type of relationship. But I cannot speak for everyone else in the world. Who knows? Like, I don't know if I would say I'm disgusted by it. And if these are people I care about and I know, and they tell me that they are actually happy like that and it's their decision and it's not harming anyone else, then I don't know. I guess so far the worst one is the cat, for me, at least. Okay, so we'll take a pause here so you can see how your responses so far compare to those of other people who completed this activity. Is it because I watch too much anime that I've been desensitized to the brother and sister thing? I don't know. Can you explain? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Okay, now we want to know what you think about the morality of the acts described in the 3 scenarios featured in this activity. After that, we are pretty much done with the asking you questions stage, and we'll let you know what we've discovered about your moral framework. We have Assan's promise, Redux. Was Carl Bianchi morally wrong not to keep the promise he made to his mother on her deathbed? Let's just think about this for a moment. According to what I have already answered, then I did say that I don't think anyone was harmed by it. And I did say that I wasn't bothered by it. Actually, in that question I answered that I actually think that this is the right thing to do, actually. Even if he was not going to keep the promise, the right thing to do seemed to me to give his mother comfort and make her happy, even if he's not planning to go through with it. So I guess I'm going to answer that it's not morally wrong. There are no victims, so I have to say no to be consistent, I think. So I'm going to go with no. I know what you're thinking, and I also agree in general terms that people should be honest, and if you are going to make a promise to someone, then it seems to be the morally correct thing to do to actually keep the promise. But that could be because there would actually be a victim in most of those cases. If you're actually going to lie to someone, then that's going to harm them in some way. That seems to be the case mostly in lies that we tell. So in those other scenarios, we might think that the morally correct thing to do is to tell the truth, is to keep our promises, because there's usually a victim in those cases, right? If we promise to do something for someone and then we don't, then that person was counting on us and they are not going to receive whatever they ask from us. So they are going to be harmed. And the same goes if, I don't know, they need to know the truth about something and we lie to them, then this is going to be something that causes problems for them. I would agree to be honest and keep your promises in general, but I think that there are cases that have to be analyzed separately. And also, I mean, okay, it's a good policy to be honest, but we all lie, right?
Everybody lies.
And sometimes we do lie for reasons that are not selfish entirely. Sometimes we lie for reasons that have to do with the well-being of the other person. So not everything is black and white. We have to take every case separately. So I'm gonna go with no. A cat snack, Redux. Was Betty Slocum morally wrong to eat her cat? Again, even though I did answer in this one that I would feel disgusted by that, I'm going to say that no, she was not morally wrong to do so. I'm saying that there are no victims here, so no. Would I do it? No. I don't have a cat, but I wouldn't even if I did. And I do find it really upsetting, but do I get to say that it's morally wrong to do so? If there are no victims, as I said, then no. I have to have another justification to say that it's morally incorrect. So let's go with no. The Lovers Redux. Were Robert and Mary morally wrong to have sex with each other? Again, I'm gonna go with no, to be consistent with what I answered in general. No victims, then it's not morally incorrect. What are you going to say, philosophy experiments? You're making me think about these weird scenarios already. Don't judge me, okay? I am trying my best to answer and be consistent with what I say morality is. So go easy on me. So my analysis is this one. The results are moralizing quotient is 0%. Yakometer 0%. The moralizing quotient is an average measure of your tendency to condemn the actions described in these scenarios as morally wrong. A score of 100% indicates a fully moralizing position. A score of 0% is a fully permissive response. It sounds like I allow anything in the world, but not really. I'm just trying to be consistent with what I'm saying, that things are morally wrong because they have victims. The Yakometer measures the tendency of your moral judgments to reflect the feelings of distaste or disgust you might experience when confronted with certain kinds of behavior. A score of 100% means that each time you've stated you would be bothered or disgusted by a particular behavior, you also have judged that behavior to be morally wrong. A score of 0% means that you have never judged a behavior you've stated to find bothersome or disgusting to be morally wrong. Sounds about right. Even though I did say that one of the scenarios I would find disgusting, I didn't judge it to be morally wrong. So let's all do whatever we want, I guess. I mean, yes, as long as you don't harm anyone else, I would say, yeah, you do your thing. What do I care? If there are no victims, then fine. You know, it might not be so easy to determine whether there are victims according to some actions, but with what's described here, exactly as it is described here, I would say there are no victims in any of the scenarios. But okay, that's arguable. You can let me know if you disagree in the comments. I really hope that this will start an interesting discussion. 54% of people who have completed this activity agree with you that Carbianchi did no moral wrong in not keeping the promise he made to his mother. Interesting, over half of people. There are some people that might think, like, I think it was Kant that would say that you should be honest always, even if a murderer who is looking for a friend of yours that's hiding in your house asks you if your friend is in your house, then you should say yes. But I disagree with that kind of thinking. I would say that most things are not moral imperatives that should be fulfilled no matter what, not considering the specific circumstances of that case. But you can feel free to disagree and let me know in the comments. 68% of people who have completed this activity would agree with you that Betty Slocum did no moral wrong in eating her pet cat Flopsy. Flopsy. Poor Flopsy, rest in peace. 54% of the people who have completed the activity agree with me that siblings Robert and Mary did no moral wrong in having sex with each other. Then final, morality and the yuck factor. Previous research suggests that most people judge the scenarios presented in this activity to involve neither harm to the protagonist nor to anybody else, though the judgment isn't clear-cut with the sibling scenario. But that nevertheless, plenty of them still think these scenarios depict acts that are morally wrong. The dangers of rooting moral attitudes in emotions are obvious. It means that a yuck factor might lead us to condemn actions and even people we have no good reason to condemn. For example, consider the fate of the untouchables in the Indian caste system. They were not allowed to touch people from the higher castes. They were not allowed to drink from the same wells. On public occasions, they had to sit at a distance from everybody else. And in some regions, even contact with the shadow of an untouchable person was seen as polluting and necessitated a purification ritual. Wow, I didn't know any of this. Such prohibitions might sit easily with a certain kind of raw sentiment. They are much harder, if not impossible, to justify in the light of reason. Well, this was a really interesting thought experiment. I really hope that you found it interesting as well, and that you played with me and tried to answer all these questions. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of each of these experiments. What were your answers and what are your justifications in each case? Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? I think this will incite an interesting conversation. I found it really fun, so I think I might do some of the other problems for a different video. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Until next time!